Hi everyone, welcome back for our week 2 go-to training session. Thank you to each of you for carving out some time out of the day to get together with us. I really appreciate your time. So I wanted to throw out a question and ask everyone, how did you enjoy your first week in PYP? And I'll give a few moments to go ahead, as I know some of you are typing some answers out in the chat box. Okay, so it looks like maybe getting acclimated, easy reading, really enjoying having assignment options. Cool. Yeah, definitely try to keep it fun and interesting by having some assignment options. That way you can kind of, whichever challenge project that you're going to lean towards, you can go ahead and have a little bit more fun, hopefully, in completing that project and maybe trying out some new tools, getting to know some of your software better, depending what programs you're choosing to use for the creative portion. Awesome. Okay. It was good to complete it was good to complete the first project and kind of get your feet wet and knowing, feeling more confident this week and knowing what to expect. Yeah, great point. Definitely take a look at my feedback and the rubric. That way you have that information about any areas of improvement for this week going into week 2. I always like to remind everybody that, week 1, we're still getting acclimated and most of you are in your second month, as well. So still trying to get used to the fast-paced schedule and classes changing every month. And maybe some of you that are working on Macs are still trying to get acclimated to that as well. So excellent point. Okay, good stuff. In week 1, we learned about play and what's considered play, such as the qualities and types, and one of my favorite, which is the play personalities. We also took a look into your play histories, and you can see that who you were back then or what you enjoyed doing is still very much a part of you now. So today for week 2, we're going to go ahead and talk about brain development and positive psychology. As I mentioned last week, I will be using web tools for each of our sessions to give you a visual intro to the tool I have chosen from our activity resource list. This is our list of suggested programs for your weekly challenge projects, but you can also use a tool that's not listed on here. So this week's session is built within the web tool called PictoChart. This is a great web tool where you can create very fun infographics. I used the slideshow option for the sake of our presentation today, but there are other options where you can create flyers and one-page type of posters. I used a blank template and chose colors and images and so forth from the ones that are provided in PictoChart, but you can also choose from their templates as well and then switch up anything that you want to design-wise within the template. This is a free web tool and makes for really fun presentations with this week's challenge project, Scarecrow's Quest. So if you are considering completing the Scarecrow's Quest challenge project this week, consider using PictoChart. As a friendly reminder, we do not have time to cover everything in our session, so please revisit your playbook for further coverage of the material. Like last week, we will have some time at the end of the session for any questions pertaining to our week 2 activities. And lastly, as a friendly reminder before we move forward, if you are watching the recording on our YouTube channel, which looks like this, if you're watching the recording, you're definitely going to want to look for the links that I referenced to in session below the video in the description portion. So to highlight our objectives, we will be reviewing the triune brain theory, doing a brain overview. We'll discuss a little bit about neuroplasticity, as well as take a look at some historical perspectives of positive psychology and its contributors. And finally, we will close out with discussing gratitude and flow. So let's get started with the brain. So first off, I don't want you to think that this is going to be a boring biology lesson. Though I find the brain to be fascinating and I leisurely read about it when I can, I am far from being an expert on it. As you can imagine, the brain is so complex that researchers are continually discovering new things about it all of the time. We are going to cover some brain rules, followed by some brain breaks to learn a little bit more. So, our first brain rule that's up for discussion is exercise boosts brain power. Exercise, in whatever form we can find it, can boost brain power. This is scientifically true. Exercise has tons and tons of benefits. So, let's take a brain break and do an exercise together. I've searched far and wide to find an exercise that we can all do if we were sitting at our desks, on the couch, or whatever you may be, and don't have a lot of room. So head on over to your materials section or click on the link below our video on the YouTube channel in the description portion and click on Boost Your Brain. And then just let me know when you're back and we can move forward. Okay, welcome back. So, moment of honesty. Who actually did the exercises with Mr. Jack LaLanne? Okay, so some of you did. Okay, I'm seeing in the chat box that some of you did only because you're sitting at home by yourself. Awesome. So I wanted to give you a quick way that you all can exercise and boost your brain power at the comfort of your own desk, your cubicle, etc., without breaking anything. All right, brain rule number 2, our brains have changed over time. The triune brain theory was developed by Paul MacLean. This theory is based on the premise that over time, our brain has evolved into 3 different brains. This evolutionary development of the brain shows that it was built or developed from the bottom up. So, with the triune brain theory, the 3 brains are the reptilian brain, the limbic brain, and the neocortex. So let me go ahead and I'm going to explain a bit about each one. So we will start with the reptilian brain. A useful metaphor would be that you could view the different parts of the brain as maybe your operating consoles, gaming consoles, your operating systems. So they start out really simple. So the reptilian brain, this might be your first gaming console. Think of perhaps NES, your Nintendo Entertainment System, perhaps Commodore 64, your Super Nintendo, whatever that may be. Think about your first gaming console. Now, this brain is responsible for all of our involuntary things or our automatic behaviors. Think of breathing, heart rate, balance, digestion, etc. It's the most primitive and controls functions that we need in order to survive. It consists of the cerebellum as well as the brainstem. Now, the limbic system is the next to evolve, and it's also known as the feeling brain. It's responsible for generating our emotions, especially our fears and aggression. So, think about our pleasure and pain centers. It's also responsible for memory storage as well as recall. And when you attach a memory with an emotion, you increase the likelihood for future recall. Sometimes we have very specific triggers along with our senses that can aid in memory formation and recall. Maybe you have a box of old photos, and when you take a look at them, you feel a rush of emotions that takes you back to that time. Another example might be how about going back to the house you grew up in, and it just has this smell that triggers an emotional memory. Perhaps it's a happy time when you used to bake with your mom, or that funny time that you played a prank on your sister. It could even be something such as the smell of grease or oil when your dad did some work in the garage. This is what the limbic system is all about. It contains our emotions and our memories, seeking pleasure, avoiding pain, etc. The limbic system contains the hippocampus, the amygdala, as well as the hypothalamus. Now onto the neocortex. Finally, this is the highest level. We started out with the reptilian brain and that lower level of functioning, and then to the limbic system that houses our emotions. The neocortex is the most advanced of the triune brain theory, and this is the part that really sort of makes us human. This is where higher level of functioning takes place. So think of consciousness, judgment, and abstract thought. All right, let's do a brain biology review. Everyone head over to your materials section again and click on brain stem. All right, welcome back. Yeah, I'm seeing some comments in the chat box. Yeah, it definitely takes you back, right? It's been a while since you watched any Pinky and the Brain, so I'm glad you guys enjoyed that flashback. And now you will have the brain stuck in your head all day. So make sure to, maybe consider bookmarking that video. That way you can view it whenever you need a quick review, maybe when you're working on your project due this Sunday evening. That way it can give you a quick visual, and it's also nice to take one of those fun little breaks when we're working on something. So, question, if our brains have evolved over time, then why do you think we still play? Something to ponder for a moment. Why do you think we still play? Exactly, because it's fun, we need to, there's an innate attraction to it. Sometimes we might think of play as something that should have weeded out, right? If it was useless, it had no purpose, it might have been, right? But when it comes to the biological aspects, there are many, many benefits to us still playing. All right, brain rule 3. What you do and learn in life actually physically changes your brain. This is a newer kind of area when it comes to the world of neuroscience. We used to think that our brains were hardwired after a certain age. You know that old phrase, you can't teach an old dog new tricks? Exactly. But when we are finding more and more is that the brain is a little more plastic than we think. Hence the term neuroplasticity, the brain and plastic, neuroplasticity. It can still be molded and shaped, so to speak. So this is why it's called neuroplasticity. We have this idea that at a certain point, we are who we are, we're never going to change, and this is actually not necessarily true. So I want everyone to head back over to their materials tab and click on neuroplasticity, an introduction. Welcome back. Yeah, so neuroplasticity is a very interesting field, and they are still doing more and more research on it. But the truth is, we can train our brains. So in essence, we can teach these old dogs new tricks. All right, so brain rule 4. We do not pay attention to boring things. It's that simple. So let's take another break and let's all find out what's a conjunction. Let's head over to our material section and click on conjunction junction. Conjunction junction. It's a mouth twister. Conjunction junction. And then we'll move forward. Ah, nice. I'm seeing a lot of feedback in the chat box. Yeah, it's bringing back some memories, right? So I hope that brought back some fond memories for you. If you've never seen that before, that was from Schoolhouse Rocks. It was this amazing series. They would actually play these short educational cartoons in between your Saturday morning cartoons. What was genius about this whole thing was that they tricked you into learning. So those horrible, horrible Schoolhouse Rocks people tricked you into learning, and on a Saturday morning to boot. So what does this have to do with the brain? What does this have to do with memory and with learning? Well, Schoolhouse Rocks actually had a team of educational psychologists working for them. A lot of the PBS shows, such as Sesame Street, had these educational psychologists working on this stuff since day one. So, because it's all about the brain being developed and what really makes learning stick. So, we don't pay attention to boring things, remember? So, when we talk about play, one of the big things is that it's fun, right? Yeah, so well, when we are truly learning something in the best way, it should feel like fun because what happens is that it's activating multiple parts of the brain. It's a multimodality approach. And what I mean by that is this. Brain Rule 5. The more senses that we can integrate into our learning, the better chance we have of holding on to that information. In our Schoolhouse Rocks clip that you just watched, it has fun visuals with a chubby conductor, has a song to it, it has a rhythm, it's got the melody in there, and the information. The actual learning is kind of just snuck in there. This is a great example, and we want to think about how to truly internalize and hold on to information. Look at Schoolhouse Rocks. That's the way to do it. Or even Pinky and the Brain. All right, so that is some of our highlights from our brain development module. So now let's take a look at some highlights from our positive psychology module. The goal of positive psychology is to change the focus of psychology from preoccupation only with repairing the worst things in life to also building positive qualities. In other words, to stop focusing on what's wrong and to start really looking at what's right. We truly believe that incorporating these concepts of play will lead to greater creativity and productivity. So, prior to World War II, the mission of psychology was curing mental illness, making the lives of all people more productive and fulfilling, and identifying and nurturing high talent. That sounds pretty good, right? So, my question is, what happened? Well, there were actually two economic game changers. The first game changer in 1946 was when the VA, the Veterans Administration, was founded and thousands of psychologists realized they could make a living treating mental illness. Now, the second game changer was in 1947 when the National Institute of Mental Health was founded and academics found they could get grants if their research was about pathology. Pathology defined became the study of the essential nature of diseases and especially of the structural and functional changes produced by them. So, making the lives of all people better and nurturing genius were unfortunately forgotten. And this is what led to the development of positive psychology. The major benefit of these two game changers we just talked about was huge strides in regards to being made to understanding and the treatment of therapy of mental illness. So, on the flip side, we were faced with the shift in focus to assessing and ultimately striving to cure the individual suffering from mental illness, as well as practitioners aiming to treat the mental illness of patients within a disease framework by attempting to repair the damage. Examples of what is viewed as damage would include such things as damaged habits, damaged drives, damaged childhoods, and damaged brains. So, this is what led to the development of positive psychology. So, let's take a look at the who's who of positive psychology. Dr. Seligman and Mihai Csikszentmihalyi are the major contributors to positive psychology. We aren't going to talk too much about their history. However, as you read your articles for this week, you will learn about their major contributions to positive psychology and a little bit about their history and what led them to the field. Okay, so let's do our not recap. The message that positive psychology wants to get across is this. Number one, the field of psychology is not just the study of pathology, of weakness and damage, it is also the study of strength as well as virtues. Now, number two is treatment is not just fixing what is broken, it is nurturing what is best. Number three is that psychology is not just a branch of medicine concerned with illness or health. It is actually much larger than that. It is about work and education and insight, and then love, growth, and of course, play. Now, number four is positive psychology is not based on wishful thinking or fads, but tries to adapt what is best in the scientific method to the unique problems that human behavior presents to those who wish to understand it in all of its complexity. So the takeaway there is that we're not all bad. Oftentimes, a lot of emphasis is placed on what's wrong, what's bad, what's broken, what's not going well. Positive psychology asks us to reflect on what's right, what's going good, what's working for us, and to consider how we can use those things to strengthen our lives. One of the ideas that positive psychology supports is the benefit of expressing gratitude. So let's go ahead and hop on over to our material section again and take a video break. It's a little long, but I'm hopeful that you will enjoy it nonetheless. Let's click on the science of happiness. And again, just let me know when you're done and we'll head on forward with the next slide. Okay, welcome back. Yeah, that is definitely a great video in regards to expressing gratitude and highlighting the relationships that we have with other folks and the impact that they've had on us. I'm glad you all enjoyed it. So, we are going to do a little activity of our own to get our positive psychology vibes flowing. So, remember in Disney's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, where the Wicked Witch looks into her magical mirror and asks the mirror to show her the finest one of all. That scene captures the tendency we all have to compare ourselves with others. It's like we're measuring ourselves against someone else's life, their looks, jobs, relationships. We're pretty good at doing this, but just because we do it well doesn't mean that it's good for us. For this activity, we're going to do things a bit differently. We'll borrow the witch's magical mirror, but our mirror is able to see the finest qualities about ourselves. We understand that we have strengths of many kinds and that recognizing them does more good for us than focusing on the negative. Pretend you're looking in a magical mirror. This mirror has the power to see your finest qualities. As you notice these traits, characteristics, and these qualities about yourself, I want you to go ahead and I want you to jot them down. You can do it the old fashioned way with some good old pen and paper, or open up a Word document or notepad on your computer and jot them down. So I want us to take a minute or so and I want us to think about all of these finest qualities. Okay, welcome back. So if anyone wants to hop on the mic, they can, or I can read some answers from the chat box. What were some of your finest qualities that you made a note of? Okay, funny, entertaining, sense of humor, caring, kind, loving, hard worker, generous. team player, seeing a lot of love, loving, caring, more kindness, warm-hearted, strong work ethic, fast learner, caring, kind, family-oriented. Yeah, so all of these great qualities. So what my goal is that, if it was pretty easy for you, then this is a great time to, go ahead and make that list. If it was a little bit harder for you, then, make sure that you come up with a great list of all of your really great attributes and then, pin it up somewhere by your desk, your work area, hang it on the fridge. So sometimes it's just a nice reminder to, have that list around and take a look at everything that makes us who we are and all of these fantastic characteristics. So it's important for us to reframe how we view ourselves because walking around with a negative perspective of oneself will definitely inhibit your flow. Now we're going to switch gears to how happiness is created, especially when it comes to our work life. So this is a quote from Dr. Csikszentmihalyi, and what he is talking about here is flow. We use the term flow often. An example would be someone may say, please don't disturb me. You are going to interrupt my flow. Dr. C actually defined flow in terms of positive psychology. The best moments in our lives are not the passive, receptive, relaxing times. The best moments usually occur if a person's body or mind is stretched to its limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something difficult and worthwhile. Flow is defined as a state in which people are so involved in an activity that nothing else seems to matter. The experience itself is so enjoyable that people will continue to do it, even at great cost, for the sake of simply doing it. Dr. C believes that happiness is not a fixed state, but can develop as we learn to achieve flow in our lives. So let's see if you all got flow. To experience flow, here are some traits to help put it in perspective a bit further. So we're looking at timeliness, complete absorption in the task, especially apparent when we are using our creative abilities, strengths, alertness, and has effortless control. So I want each of us to think about a moment that sticks out to them with experiencing flow. Exactly. Yeah, I'm seeing some answers scroll in the chat box. During sports games, just getting out in nature, taking pictures, filming. Exactly. Yeah, and you all will notice that I posted on our week 2 discussion board, and that is surrounding this topic of flow. I used a volleyball game as my personal example to help get our board, up and running this week. So yeah, so think about that time when you were able to experience flow and all that it entailed. And that's the scenario we're looking for you to share this week on the discussion board. Remember that that's due on Wednesday evening. So definitely, hop in there and take a look at that if you haven't had the chance so far. And the other scenario we're asking you to share is during a time when you were unable to achieve flow. So kind of a comparison there, a scenario where you were able to achieve flow and what it felt like, what it looked like, and then when you didn't, and how could we change something about that scenario where you were unable to achieve flow. And this is going to be really important when it comes to being in your field and trying to push through creative blocks, trying to find that flow, trying to, get into the groove, so to speak. So I want to go ahead and take a look at a talented clip of Kseniya Simonova from Ukraine's Got Talent. It's about 8 minutes long. So again, come back to the chat box. We'll move forward. So go ahead and click on the Kseniya Simonova clip in your materials section, and then we'll come back. Yeah, I love that clip too. It's just amazing. It's just a really great example of her finding her flow and the music as it changes while she's working on the sand art and changing those sceneries in that live situation. Definitely, definitely a great clip. So we've covered some brain rules in our session today, highlighting the triune brain theory with an overview of the reptilian brain, the limbic brain, as well as the neocortex. We touched on neuroplasticity before moving on to some historical takeaways of positive psychology, along with some of the major contributors, before wrapping up with gratitude and flow. So now what I want to do is end our session with a little bit of motivation from Kid President. So if you head on over to your materials section, click on your Kid President link, and let's take a look. And then we'll come back. And if there's any questions about our activities or the session at that point, we can take some time to answer them. All right, welcome back. So just like Kid President says, what will be your space jam? That's a great motivational video. I keep that one bookmarked just in case I need to take a little video break during the day. So does anybody have any questions about the material that we've covered in today's session, or any questions in regards to your Module 2 reading that I could be of help with? No? Okay, everybody is all set so far. Well, just as a friendly reminder, if any questions come up, definitely don't hesitate to message me through LAO, and, we can always reconnect, and message through the platform, or if we need to connect in person on the phone or via iChat as well. So even outside my office hours, remember, you can always look for me on iChat as well, and we have email, phone, we have a lot of different forums to connect. So definitely take advantage of that if any questions come up. So does anybody have any questions about our week 2 activities that are due this week? We have that initial post Wednesday evening deadline, and then the rest of our activities, the quiz, your brain teaser quiz, the challenge project, as well as our response posts to our classmates are due this Sunday evening. Are there any questions about that? Okay, no, everybody seems to be all set so far. Okay, so same thing. Again, if any questions come up, don't hesitate to reach out to me on LAO. Just to mention, if anyone is, if anyone's willing, definitely, please use me to your advantage. If you are wanting to submit maybe like a rough draft, or you have any ideas that you want to talk to me about in regards to your weekly challenge projects ahead of time, just connect with me, send it to me by Friday morning. That way I have time to review it, or we have time to discuss it. And then that way it gives you the weekend to, kind of tweak things, where you see applicable after our conversation about it. So, so definitely, definitely feel free to reach out to me for that, and not just this week, but any week. So kind of keep that Friday morning as a deadline, just for any type of rough draft type of stuff. That way, like I said, it at least gives you the weekend to kind of tweak anything you want to before our Sunday evening deadline. So I just wanted to offer some feedback on the week 1 projects and the discussion board. So with your discussion boards, everyone was off to a really great start in both areas for our week 1. I know week 1, everyone is still trying to kind of get their feet wet and learn what the expectations are and get acclimated to our different resources and things that we have going on. As you guys have probably already noticed, I post different tips and resources and highlights on our community discussion board, and that's just so when you log in at your leisure, you can go ahead and kind of peruse through our community board. So definitely take a look. I've put up some new stuff there, as I will each week. Now with regard to the discussion boards, definitely make sure that you are making appropriate amount of response posts. That that is a big chunk of your grade. It's 30 points, your response post to classmates. And I did give some feedback this week to make sure that you're just reviewing what I'm looking for in the response post. So kind of veering away from either agreeing or disagreeing or simply liking someone's post, really looking for more the suggestions and feedback to your classmate. Keep in mind about a paragraph each, maybe 3 to 4 sentences of content there. And again, if you missed that initial discussion post deadline Wednesday evening, you still have the availability to recover that 10 points. So what you're going to want to do is make your initial discussion post by Sunday evening, respond to your 2 classmates as you normally would, but then make an additional response post to a classmate. And that will keep you eligible to make back those 10 loss points for posting that initial discussion post after Wednesday. So definitely just take a look at that. But I'm really excited to review the examples on the discussion board in regards to flow this week. You guys had some really, really great stuff last week, so I'm excited to see more. Now, in regards to your week 1 projects, something I want to highlight that I highlighted on many rubrics was spelling and grammar. The reason that I highlight that is it's really good to get into that practice of running a spelling and grammar check. I like for us to practice it now in month 2 because it's something that is expected in your upcoming courses. So I definitely just want to make sure that you all are prepared for that. The same thing with making sure that we are notating where we're getting our images from that we're using in our presentations. I posted an APA link on our community board. So take a look at that when you get a chance. And any of the links that I'm posting to help you out in this class, definitely consider bookmarking and saving so you have it for a quick reference when you're moving forward in your coursework, okay? So definitely, I try not to spend a lot of time on spelling and grammar, but it is necessary. So just kind of do that spelling and grammar check. The same reason I'm asking you on our LAO messaging back and forth to use your name and include like an intro, just as we would with email, because that's another expectation as you're moving forward. It's just sort of that professional interaction. I know sometimes when we're on an online platform, we can kind of get into texting lingo, and we might be used to, how we would message back and forth in Facebook and so forth, but try to err on the side of professionalism when it comes to interacting on LAO. So again, just that friendly reminder, just because it is something that is expected moving forward. So I really like for this to be a practice month with a lot of things. Another thing I wanted to highlight in regards to your projects is that you need to be answering the questions on the template, that PDF template, as well as submitting a separate presentation. That's why you'll see in the deliverables area on the PDF that you are answering the template questions as well as completing the presentation. So there are 2 separate components to the project, okay? We had some combination of both, and then if you are not desiring or don't have the Adobe software, there is a tutorial on how to download it for free. You can always give LAO a call in order to assist with that. But if you are not desiring to use the PDF form, make sure that you're outlining on your Word document, your note document that you're submitting if you're using Google, etc. Make sure you outline which project you're completing and maybe consider numbering the questions. And also I'm going to want for you, and I'm going to look for you to use the checklist at the bottom as well. So I have to maintain the same requirements. If I'm requiring anyone using the PDF to complete all of those areas, I'm going to also, to be fair, need to require that of using a Word or Google type document. So make sure you're including the checklist responses. That way you're acknowledging the instructions as well as numbering your responses. If you wanted to copy and paste the question, that's fine too. But at least indicating which project you're completing is definitely helpful. Okay. If there are any questions with any of that, please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, I have iChat hours specifically for office hours, but anytime I'm working, I'm usually available on iChat. I try to keep the platform up as well. That way I can respond to messages on LAO as fast as possible. And I look forward to more meetings next week for coming back together for our week 3 go-to training. And I hope that you all are having a great week. And again, I'm really looking forward to seeing what you all create and post this week. So take care, and thanks so much for coming out.